Hello everyone, greetings from Pakistan.
I'm Rahel Hertz from Israel.
Hi, my name is Aljaž. I come from Slovenia.
I am Doris Fatima Weber.
All right, so I want to start by saying once again, congratulations, Ines, on being selected as MCID Washington's Country of the Month for April. This month, we are celebrating France, as well as your inspiring work in the space sciences. You participated in an IVLP program virtually this past October on the US partnerships in the aerospace industry. So it's an absolute pleasure to have you back with us and participating in this feature. So I guess I'll get started by asking you to introduce yourself and asking you to tell us a little bit about your current job and some of your professional responsibilities.
Thank you. Thank you for selecting me for the feature, the feature for the Country of the Month. I'm honored. So my name is Ines Belgacem. I'm a research fellow at the European Space Agency, currently based in Madrid. I am a planetary scientist, so I'm studying planetary surfaces, and in particular, I'm interested in the planetary surfaces of Jupiter's icy moons. So that's Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. In the past, I've been involved in Mars science as well, in a NASA mission. But right now, I'm focusing on ESA's JUICE mission for Jupiter's Icy Moons Explorer. And we're going to launch the spacecraft next year. And we're going to have to wait till 2030 to get our first data. But until then, we are preparing for all the data that's going to be coming in and preparing to better understand the context of the icy moons and what we can learn from the next mission.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, how did you get involved in this work?
So honestly, I cannot remember when it started, because as long as I can remember, I've always been absolutely fascinated with space, with planets, with stars. And as a kid, I didn't know that was an option to be an astrophysicist or a planetary scientist. Mm-hmm. And little by little, even though my background didn't really prepare me for it, I had the chance to meet mentors and teachers, and my parents were always very supportive. So I discovered that it could be a job. I discovered what I needed to do to get there. And just, following step by step, I ended up going to a great engineering school, ISAE, which has a great space science department. And I was lucky enough to be able to do a Master of Science in Astrophysics and to finally fulfill my dream and get my PhD in planetary science and finally get to ESA now.
Wow, amazing story, an amazing path. So I guess the next question I have for you is, what are some of the best moments that you've had from your virtual IVLP experience? Are there any highlights or any shout outs that you'd like to give?
Yes. So first of all, I'd like to thank literally everyone who's been involved in putting it together, but also of the to the professionals who were incredibly available to us. And we were only 2 visitors, so we could ask a lot of questions, and those meetings were a wealth of information. All of them were really nice, very open about the discussions that we had. One highlight for me, and it's really has to do with my personal interest in the field, is our first lecture with Professor Henry Hertzfeld. So we talked about space policy and the country's approach to treaties and what it might hold for the future of space exploration. And I could have talked to him for hours. He was great. And some other highlights came before the program of me meeting the embassy people and also meeting Charles Bolden, who's the former NASA administrator that I had a chance to meet at the embassy in Paris. Wow. And with whom I had a great conversation. So this program has been an incredible chance for me, and I'm really grateful to have been part of it.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful to hear. Moving on to sort of more of a cultural discussion, what would you highlight about your country to visitors or people from the US who may not know very much about France and its culture, or who may just have a very stereotypical or very simple view of the complexities of French culture?
Yeah, so France, I know there's a lot of stereotypes about France, maybe especially in the US. One that is true is that we really love food. Wherever you go in France, you'll have amazing food to choose from. But France is very, very diverse. And I know that from a foreigner point of view, it's hard. Sometimes you kind of equate France to Paris, which is still a great city to visit. It's a beautiful city. But France is very different, and you can find other types of cultural things or even landscapes. If you go to Biarritz, or if you go to Brittany, or if you go in the Massif Central where we have all volcanoes. And personally, I kind of have to mention, I'm from Toulouse, this is my hometown, and I'm very, very proud of being from Toulouse. I spent most of my life there, and that's still where my heart is to this day, even though now I live in Madrid. One thing that visitors could look for, if you go to Toulouse, which is an amazing city in the south of France, and you want to order something in a bakery, order a chocolatine, not a pain au chocolat, never. You've been warned now.
Wonderful advice for all the foodies out there. Once quarantine is over and COVID, well, I'll definitely look forward to visiting Toulouse. And finally, just to close out this interview, is there anything else that you'd like to share about yourself or your work that we haven't already covered?
Yes, so I talk a little bit about my work, about the science part of my work. Another thing that I'm trying to include as much as possible is outreach, because one part of the work of a scientist is to do science, to ask questions, to search for answers. Another huge part, in my opinion, is really to communicate that science to the general public, especially working at a place like ESA. We are public servants of Europe, and to me, it's very important to explain to people who are virtually paying us why we do what we're doing and what we can learn, and to make science approachable and accessible to everyone. So I try to do a lot of outreach in my work. I also do that in my personal life as well. I've been involved in several organizations. We created with some friends an association called Sens'Astro, where we try to create content about space, but discovering space through the 5 senses. So especially for people who have sensory disabilities, because so much of space comes through images in the general public, but there are other ways to experience that. So we're really trying to create content to reflect that and to include everyone. I also think that representation is important, and especially as I mentioned in the beginning, my background didn't really prepare me for any of this, but from statistics that you see in, I'm guessing in other countries, but especially in France, I'm kind of an anomaly of the system. It's very hard to get to those positions without having any role models in your direct, in your family or in your friends. So I'm really trying to make my own contributions to try to make that better by talking to young people from my old neighborhood, from neighborhood like that, and really try to encourage everyone to join science in general, but really to follow whatever they want, regardless of social background, of gender, of race, or any other thing that could be perceived as something that could hold them back.
Mm-hmm. Well, inspiring words from you, Ines. Thank you so much for participating in this Country of the Month feature and for this interview. I'm sure I've been left inspired, and I'm sure the rest of our network will be as well. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.